The hotel manager's face went white as he stammered into his phone. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Ashford, but you're on our permanent ban list. No, sir, I cannot override it." The owner was very explicit. I watched from the penthouse suite's window as Marcus Ashford, my brother, my tormentor, the golden child who'd left me stranded in foreign countries more times than I could count, stood in the Parisian rain, suitcases soaking, desperately gesturing at the five-star hotel entrance. My hotel. The one I'd purchased 3 months ago specifically for this moment. "Tell him," I said into my own phone, connected to the manager's line, "that Ms. Elena Ashford sends her regards." The confusion on Marcus's face was delicious. He didn't know I was here. He didn't know I owned the Hotel Lumiere. He certainly didn't know that I'd died, been reborn, and spent the last 2 years systematically destroying every safety net he'd ever taken for granted. This was just the beginning. Let me take you back to where it all started. Not this life, but my first one. The one that ended in a dirty hospital room in Bangkok, Thailand, where I died alone at 28 years old from pneumonia that could have been easily treated if I'd had money for proper care. I grew up as the spare child in the Ashford family. Marcus was 3 years older, charming, athletic, effortlessly brilliant at everything he touched. I was the accident baby, the one who came along and ruined Mother's figure and disrupted the perfect family unit they'd already established. My parents never let me forget it. From the time I could understand words, I knew I was less than. Marcus got a new car for his 16th birthday. I got a used bicycle from a garage sale for mine. Marcus's college tuition was paid in full to Yale. I was told to figure it out and took on crushing student loan debt to attend a state school. When Marcus wanted to find himself after college, Dad funded a year-long trip through Europe. When I asked for help with rent during an unpaid internship, Mother told me I needed to learn responsibility. But the trips? God, the trips were the worst. It started when I was 19. Marcus had been planning a graduation trip to Italy with his friends, and at the last minute, one of them dropped out. Mother insisted I go in their place. "It'll be good for you two to bond," she said, though I suspected she just didn't want Marcus's expensive villa rental to have an empty room. I scraped together every penny I had for the plane ticket. Marcus assured me he'd cover accommodations and that we'd split food costs. I arrived in Rome exhausted but excited. My first time in Europe. The first 3 days were fine. Then Marcus met a girl at a club, Sophia, a beautiful Italian socialite who hung on his every word. By day 4, I'd become invisible. By day 5, I woke up in our shared Airbnb to find Marcus gone, his belongings cleared out, and a note on the kitchen counter, "Saskia, the son, staying with wine. Sophia's family in Milan, you should head home. There's no room for you there." No apology, no offer to help me change my flight, no acknowledgement that he'd left me in a foreign country where I barely spoke the language with only 3 days left on a non-refundable room I couldn't afford to pay for alone. I spent those 3 days eating nothing but bread and cheap cheese, unable to afford anything else. I slept in the airport the night before my flight because I'd had to check out early and couldn't afford another night. When I got home, Mother asked how the trip was. When I tried to explain what Marcus did, she cut me off. "Don't be dramatic, Elena. Marcus is young and in love. You should be happy for your brother." That was the first time. Not the last. 2 years later, Marcus invited me to join him in Tokyo. He was there for business, he said, and thought it would be nice to have family around. Stupidly, I believed him. I used my tax refund for the ticket. He left me at a restaurant in Shibuya, claiming he had to take an important call. He never came back. I waited for 3 hours before I realized he'd actually left Japan entirely. I found out from his Instagram post, geotagged in Seoul, partying with colleagues. I had to call Dad, humiliated, to wire me money for a hotel. He did, but the lecture that came with it about being more self-sufficient stung worse than the abandonment. Barcelona, Prague, Mumbai, Sydney, every time there was an excuse. An emergency, a business opportunity, a girl, a friend's crisis, and every time I was the collateral damage, left to fend for myself in places where I didn't speak the language, didn't have resources, couldn't afford the most basic necessities. And every time I tried to tell our parents, I was met with the same response. Marcus is ambitious. Marcus is busy. Marcus doesn't mean anything by it. Stop being so sensitive. The worst part, each time it happened, Marcus would come back with a gift, a cheap souvenir, a touristy trinket, and Mother would coo over how thoughtful he was. The fact that he'd left me stranded never seemed to register as the more important detail. By the time I was 26 in my first life, I'd learned to stop accepting his invitations. But then Dad got sick. Cancer, aggressive and fast-moving. Marcus called me, voice thick with emotion. We should see Dad together. He's always wanted to take us to Ireland. See where his grandfather came from. Let's do it for him, Lena. Let's give him this. Dad was too sick to travel, but the sentiment was that we'd go, take photos, bring back stories. A final gift. I should have known better, but it was for Dad. We landed in Dublin on a gray October morning. For 2 days, Marcus was the brother I'd always wished he could be. We visited pubs, took selfies at the cliffs of Moher, laughed like we were real siblings. On the third day, he got a call. Emergency back home, he said, face grave. Dad took a turn. I need to get back immediately. I'll come with you, I said, already reaching for my phone to change my flight. No, you stay, finish the trip, take the photos. Dad would want that. He was gone within the hour. I didn't find out until I landed back in New York 5 days later that there had been no emergency. Dad was stable, had been stable the whole time. Marcus had simply gotten bored and wanted to leave, but knew I'd insist on coming too if he told the truth. So he lied. And when I confronted him at Dad's hospital bedside, he shrugged. You needed the break anyway. I did you a favor. Dad died 3 weeks later. He never got his Ireland stories. Marcus had deleted all his photos because his phone storage was full. The final abandonment came a year after Dad's death. Mother organized a family healing trip to Thailand, just the 3 of us. A chance to reconnect, she said. I was broke, I was depressed, I was grieving. But I went because some pathetic part of me still hoped that maybe without Dad there to worship Marcus, Mother might finally see me. We were in Bangkok for 4 days before Marcus and Mother took a day trip to Phuket. They never came back. I got a text from Mother. Marcus had a wonderful business opportunity here. We're extending our stay. Your flight home is on Saturday as planned. Enjoy the city. It was Tuesday. I had enough money for 1 more night in the hotel and nothing else. I stretched it as far as I could, then spent 2 nights sleeping on benches trying not to get robbed. I got sick. Feverish. Some kind of respiratory infection that I ignored because I had no money for a doctor. By the time I made it to the airport, I could barely breathe. I collapsed in the terminal. The next thing I remember is waking up in a hospital bed, a doctor telling me in broken English that I had severe pneumonia and no travel insurance. They treated me anyway, gave me antibiotics, but the damage was done. I spent 3 weeks in that hospital, getting sicker instead of better. Complications, the doctor said. My lungs were compromised. I needed surgery I couldn't afford. I called Mother. She told me to stop being dramatic and figure it out. I called Marcus. He didn't answer. I died alone in that hospital room, 28 years old, drowning in my own lungs, with $17 in my bank account and a family that couldn't be bothered to answer my calls. And then I woke up. I was 16 again, in my childhood bedroom in the Ashford family house in Connecticut. It was the morning of my essays. At first, I thought it was a dream. Then I thought I was having a psychotic break. But as the day went on, as I aced the SATs using knowledge I shouldn't have had, as I watched Marcus stumble through his calculus homework on problems I knew the answers to, as Mother made the same passive-aggressive comment about my hair that she'd made 12 years ago, I understood. I'd been given a second chance, and I was going to use it to burn their world to the ground. The first thing I did was start planning. I had 12 years of memories, 12 years of knowledge about stocks, trends, opportunities. I knew which startups would explode, which investments would tank, which real estate markets would boom, but I also knew that showing sudden brilliance would raise suspicions. So I played it carefully. I still went to state school, took the full scholarship I earned with my perfect SAT, but this time I worked differently. I got internships at the companies I knew would matter. I networked with people I remembered became important. I bought Bitcoin when it was pennies, sold it at the peak. I invested in Tesla and Amazon and every sure thing I could remember. By the time I was 22 in this second life, I had almost $8 million in various accounts, all hidden in LLCs and trusts that my family knew nothing about. Marcus still got his Europe trip. I declined to go, making an excuse about internship commitments. Mother was annoyed but didn't push. I watched his Instagram from my tiny apartment, watched him live his best life, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction, knowing that his privilege had an expiration date. I let the family drama play out without me, kept my distance, played the role of the family disappointment they expected, worked my anonymous corporate job, lived in my modest apartment, drove my used car, and quietly, methodically, I built an empire. Real estate became my focus. I started small, a duplex here, a small apartment building there. Properties I knew would explode in value. I flipped some, kept others. By 25, I owned 37 properties across 6 states. Then I went international. I bought a boutique hotel in Prague that was on the verge of bankruptcy, renovated it, made it profitable, bought another in Barcelona, then Mumbai, then Sydney. Every city where Marcus had abandoned me, I bought a piece of the hospitality industry. I was 27 now, a year younger than I'd died in my previous life. I was worth almost $200 million. I owned hotels, apartment complexes, commercial properties. I had a team of managers running everything, keeping my name out of all public records. To my family, I was still just Elena, still struggling, still disappointing, still invisible. It was exactly where I wanted to be. The plan for the Hotel Lumiere started 9 months ago. I knew from my previous life that Marcus would be in Paris this month for a tech conference. I knew he always stayed at the Lumiere, a grand 5-star hotel near the Champs-Élysées. I knew he'd already made a reservation because he'd posted about it on social media, so I bought it. The previous owners were looking to retire, and the deal was straightforward. I paid cash, closed in 60 days, and immediately implemented new management protocols, including a very specific permanent ban list. Marcus Ashford, mother, Catherine Ashford. And for good measure, every single one of Marcus's friends who'd been complicit in those abandonments over the years. The beauty of owning a hotel chain is that you can share ban lists. The moment Marcus's name hit the system, he was banned from all 43 hotels I owned worldwide. Prague, Barcelona, Mumbai, Sydney. Every city he'd left me stranded in, I'd made sure he could never find comfortable accommodation again. But Paris was special. Paris was where I wanted to be there in person to see his face. I'd been watching the entrance from my suite for 20 minutes when Marcus arrived. He was older now, 30 in this timeline, still handsome in that effortless way that had always gotten him everything he wanted. Designer suit, expensive luggage, that confident stride of someone who'd never been told no. The doorman greeted him warmly. Marcus handed off his bags, stepped into the lobby's warmth out of the rain, and approached the front desk. I couldn't hear the conversation from up here, but I'd coached the staff extensively. They were to be polite but firm. Mr. Ashford's reservation had been canceled. No, there was no mistake. No, we cannot accommodate you. Yes, we're quite sure. I watched him argue. Watched his confidence turn to confusion, then irritation. He pulled out his phone, probably showing them the confirmation email. The desk agent shook her head apologetically. Then Marcus asked to speak to a manager. Perfect. Henri, my hotel manager, arrived within minutes. A consummate professional, he listened to Marcus's increasingly agitated explanation with patient sympathy. Then he delivered the line I'd been waiting for. I picked up my phone and dialed Henri's number, which he answered immediately on his wireless earpiece. Tell him, I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me, that Ms. Elena Ashford sends her regards. Through the window, I watched Marcus freeze. His face went slack with shock, then confusion. He said something to Henri, probably asking who Elena Ashford was, if I was related to him. Henri's response made Marcus pull out his phone again, this time typing frantically, probably searching for me online. He wouldn't find much. I'd been careful to keep my business dealings anonymous. But he'd find enough. A profile on a business directory listing me as CEO of Lumiere International Holdings. A mention in a real estate trade publication about my Prague acquisition. A photo from a charity gala I'd attended in New York where I'd looked nothing like the sister he remembered. Designer dress, professional styling, standing among Manhattan's elite. I watched the realization dawn on his face. Watched him look up at the hotel with new eyes. Watched him understand, perhaps for the first time in his life, that he'd miscalculated. My phone rang. Marcus. I answered on the third ring. Hello, Marcus. Lena, what the fuck is going on? They're saying I'm banned from this hotel? That you own it? That's correct on both counts. This is insane. This is some kind of joke, right? You don't own, you can't. He was sputtering now, his usual smooth charm completely gone. You work in data entry. I did work in data entry, past tense. That was years ago. I've diversified since then. You own a hotel. 43 hotels, actually, but who's counting? The silence on his end was profound. I savored it. I don't understand, he finally said. How did you... Remember Thailand, Marcus? When you and Mother left me there and I got sick? I had a lot of time to think in that hospital bed about what I wanted to do with my life. Assuming I lived, of course. That was an accident. We didn't know you'd get sick. You left me in a foreign country with no money, Marcus. What did you think was going to happen? It wasn't like that. Tokyo, Barcelona, Prague, Sydney, Rome. Should I go on? Another silence. Then defensively. Those were misunderstandings. No, Marcus, they were patterns. And patterns become choices. And choices become character. So I made some choices of my own. So what, you're punishing me? This is revenge? This is consequences. There's a difference. I need a hotel, Lena. The conference is starting tomorrow. Everything else in the area is booked. I know, it's a very busy week in Paris. You should have planned better. You can't do this. I can, actually. I did. And I will continue to do so in Prague, Barcelona, Mumbai, Sydney, and every other city where you decided I was disposable. This is crazy. You're being crazy. There it was. The same dismissive tone Mother always used. The same refusal to accept accountability. I'm being deliberate, Marcus. There's a difference. I hung up. Through the window, I watched him stand in the rain, staring at his phone. Watched him make more calls, probably to other hotels, finding them all booked. Watched him eventually grab his soaking luggage and trudge away into the Parisian night. I ordered champagne from room service and toasted myself in the mirror. Phase 1 was complete. Marcus wasn't my only target. He was just the beginning. 3 days after Paris, I flew to Connecticut. Mother still lived in the family house, the one Dad had bought 40 years ago before his tech company made him rich. It was a beautiful property, 8 bedrooms on 3 acres, worth about $4 million. In my previous life, Marcus had inherited it. The will had been very clear. The house went to the oldest child. I'd gotten $50,000 in some of Dad's books. Marcus had gotten everything else, the house, the stock portfolio, the car collection. In this life, I'd made some changes. Dad had died right on schedule, the same cancer, the same timeline. But before he got too sick, I'd had a conversation with him. Just the two of us in his study, while Marcus was off on one of his trips. Dad, I'd said, I need to talk to you about your will. He'd looked surprised. We didn't talk about money or inheritance. That wasn't our relationship. I know Marcus is set to inherit the house, I continued. I'm not contesting that. But I want to buy the life insurance policy from the estate. Before you pass, I mean. I'll pay fair market value. He'd been confused at first, but I'd explained it as a business investment. Life insurance policies could be sold, it was a whole industry. I made it sound smart and savvy, not emotional. In the end, he'd agreed. I paid him $800,000, far more than the policy was worth on paper, which made him happy because it meant more for his estate. In return, I became the beneficiary of his $5 million life insurance policy. When Dad died, Marcus got the house and stocks, about $6 million total. I got $5 million in cash that no one knew about because I'd structured the policy sale through one of my LLCs, but more importantly, I'd gotten something else. Dad's signature on a document he'd barely read, giving me right of first refusal if the family house was ever sold. Marcus had no idea that clause existed. Mother certainly didn't. And now, 3 years after Dad's death, Mother was selling. She'd called me 2 weeks ago with the news, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. I know this house has memories for you, dear, but it's too much for me to manage alone. I've accepted an offer, $8 million. Can you imagine? Your father would be so proud. She didn't invite me to say goodbye to the house, didn't ask if I wanted anything from it, just informed me that she was selling, the deal would close in 30 days, and she was moving to a penthouse in Manhattan that Marcus had helped her find. What she didn't know was that the moment she'd listed the house, my lawyers had been notified. Right of first refusal meant I could match any offer, and the house had to be sold to me instead. I'd waited until the day before closing. Let her think the deal was done. Let her pack, hire movers, say her goodbyes to neighbors. Then I matched the offer. My lawyer called her lawyer. Her lawyer called her. And that's when my phone rang. "What have you done?" Mother's voice was shrill with rage. No greeting, no pretense of civility. "I exercised my right of first refusal, Mother. It's in Dad's will. You would know that if you'd read it." "There is no such thing. This is fraud. I'll sue you." "Please do. My lawyers would enjoy the billable hours. But you'll lose. Dad's signature is on the contract. His lawyer notarized it. It's ironclad." "Why would you do this? You don't even like this house." It was true that I'd spent as little time there as possible, but she didn't need to know why I wanted it. "I'm buying it because I can," I said simply. "Close in 5 days. Cash offer. Your new penthouse will have to wait, I'm afraid." "Marcus will never allow this." "Marcus doesn't have a say, but speaking of Marcus, how is he? I heard his Paris trip didn't go quite as planned." The silence was delicious. "You," she said slowly. "That hotel, that was you." "Guilty?" "You vindictive little—" "Careful, Mother. I'm recording this call. Wouldn't want your lawyer to hear you harassing me." I wasn't actually recording, but she didn't know that. She hung up. The house closed on schedule. I paid cash. $8 million didn't even dent my accounts. Mother had to scramble to find a new place. The penthouse had already gone to another buyer during the delay. She ended up in a 2-bedroom condo in Queens. From 8 acres in Connecticut to a 2-bedroom in Queens, the symmetry was poetic. But I wasn't done with the house. Not even close. Growing up, I'd always loved the house's library. Dad's sanctuary lined with first editions and leather chairs. Marcus had never read a book in his life that wasn't assigned for school, but he'd inherited it anyway. After Dad died, Mother had cleaned it out, donated most of the books to a library sale, sold a few valuable first editions to a dealer. The room became a yoga studio she never used. I spent 3 months restoring it. Found and bought back every book I could track down. Hunted down the same editions for the ones I couldn't find. Hired a carpenter to rebuild the custom shelves based on old photos. When it was done, it looked exactly as I remembered from childhood. From those rare moments when Dad would let me sit in there with him, reading quietly while he worked. I turned the rest of the house into something new. Something mine. I kept the footprint, the bones, but gutted the interior. Modern kitchen, spa bathrooms, a home office with views of the garden, a screening room in the basement, a wine cellar where Mother's treadmill used to be. I posted exactly one photo of it on Instagram, the restored library with a caption, "Home." Marcus called within an hour. "That's Dad's library?" "It is now." "You have no right to that house." "I have every right. I bought it legally." "It was supposed to be mine. Dad wanted me to have it." "Dad wanted you to have the house he left you in his will. The one you sold 3 years ago to buy that ridiculous penthouse in Manhattan. Remember? The one with the terrible coke habit that got you evicted?" Silence. I'd struck a nerve. In my previous life, Marcus's drug problem had been a family secret. In this life, I'd made sure it became very public. An anonymous tip to his building's board about noise complaints and illegal substances. He'd been forced to sell at a loss. "That was," he struggled for words, "that wasn't—" "You can't use that against me." "I'm not using anything against you, Marcus. I'm simply stating facts. You had a house, you sold it, you made poor choices. Those aren't my problems." Lena, please, that house, it's family. I am family, or did you forget? You know what I mean. It's supposed to stay in the family between me and mother. I see. So I'm not really family. Just convenient when you need someone to abandon in foreign countries. God, are you ever going to let that go? Let it go? I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. Marcus, you left me to die in Thailand. In my previous life, I actually did die there. But sure, I should just let it go. Your previous? What are you talking about? I'd said too much. The words had slipped out, carried on years of suppressed rage. Never mind, the point is the house is mine. You and Mother are welcome to visit if you make an appointment. I'll even let you see the library. This isn't over, Lena. Yes, it is. You just haven't accepted it yet. I hung up and blocked his number. The thing about revenge is that it's most satisfying when it's served in layers. The hotel ban was immediate gratification. The house was deeper, a blow to their legacy, their sense of family dominance. But what I wanted most was something more fundamental. I wanted them to feel what I'd felt: helpless, abandoned, and completely at the mercy of someone who didn't care. That required planning. Marcus worked at a tech startup called Nexus. In my previous life, they'd gone public, and his stock options had made him a millionaire several times over. He'd spent his 30s traveling the world, investing in vanity projects, never working another real day in his life. In this life, Nexus was still pre-IPO, still growing, still promising. And I was about to destroy it. The company's weakness was their CEO, Brandon Marlowe. Brilliant technologist, terrible businessman. He'd made some questionable choices about investor relations and financial reporting. Nothing illegal, but sloppy enough to scare off serious money. In my previous life, they'd recovered, found the right investors, cleaned up their books, and launched successfully. In this life, I made sure that didn't happen. I started by buying up their debt. Nexus had taken several high-interest loans to fund their growth, desperate moves by Brandon when he couldn't secure proper VC funding. Those loans were held by various small lenders who were happy to sell them to me at a premium. Within 4 months, I owned 60% of Nexus's debt, about $40 million worth. Then I waited. The company had 18 months before their biggest loan came due. In my previous life, they'd made the payment by closing a Series C funding round. The lead investor had been a firm called Redstone Capital. I bought Redstone Capital, not the whole firm. I didn't need to. I just bought enough shares to get a board seat. And then I spent 6 months quietly convincing the board that early-stage tech companies were too risky, that we should focus on safer bets, that Nexus was overvalued and underprepared. When Nexus came to Redstone for their Series C, they were turned down. They went to other firms, but word travels in VC circles. If Redstone passed, there must be a reason. Due diligence got more intense. Questions got harder. Concerns about Brandon's management style became concerns about the company's viability. 6 months before the loan was due, Nexus still didn't have funding. Marcus started posting less on Instagram. The photos that did appear showed him looking tired, stressed. Good. 3 months before the deadline, I made my move. My lawyer sent a letter to Nexus calling in the debt early. It was within my rights. The loans had acceleration clauses if the company's financial situation deteriorated. And by any objective measure, their inability to secure funding counted as deterioration. They had 60 days to pay $40 million or face bankruptcy. Marcus called me from a number I hadn't blocked. I answered out of curiosity. Are you fucking kidding me right now? His voice was raw, desperate. You're calling in the debt? Business is business, Marcus. This isn't business. This is personal. You're trying to destroy my company. Your company? I wasn't aware you were CEO. You know what I mean, my options. My entire future is tied up in this. Sounds stressful. Have you considered diversifying your investments? I've found real estate to be quite reliable. Lena, please, there are 300 employees here. People with families, mortgages, kids in college. If we go under, they lose everything. Then I suggest you find $40 million in the next, I checked my watch, 53 days. We don't have it. You know we don't have it. That's why we were raising funding. Sounds like a you problem. I'm your brother. The word hung in the air between us. Brother. As if that had ever meant anything to him. You're right, I said quietly. You are my brother, which is why I'm going to make you the same offer you made me in Bangkok. What offer? What are you talking about? Figure it out. I hung up. Nexus didn't figure it out. They tried. God, they tried. Emergency board meetings. Desperate pitches to anyone who would listen. Brandon even tried to negotiate with me directly, flying to New York to meet with my people. I declined the meeting. With 30 days left, they announced layoffs. Half the staff gone. Marcus kept his job barely. With 2 weeks left, they tried to sell the company. But who wants to buy a company that's about to be bankrupted by its debt holder? Especially when that debt holder has no incentive to negotiate? With 3 days left, Marcus showed up at my Connecticut house. I watched him through the security camera as he rang the doorbell. He looked terrible. Rumpled suit, dark circles under his eyes, the kind of exhausted that comes from weeks of bad sleep. I let him ring 3 times before I answered the intercom. Can I help you? Lena, please, let me in. We need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Please, his voice cracked. I'm begging you. I considered making him stand in the cold. It would be poetic. How many times had he left me in worse situations? But I was curious to see him broken, so I buzzed him in. He followed me to Dad's library. I'd done that on purpose, wanted him to see what he'd lost, wanted him to sit in Dad's space and understand how completely I'd won. The library looks good, he said quietly, looking around. It does. I remember Dad reading to us in here when we were kids. He read to you, I just happened to be present. Marcus flinched. That's not... Yes, it is. But let's not relitigate childhood. You're here about Nexus. We can't pay. You know we can't pay. Then you'll declare bankruptcy. It's a standard business outcome. My stock options will be worthless. Tragic. Lena, please, what do you want? What can I do to fix this? There it was. The question I'd been waiting for, the moment of absolute power. I leaned back in Dad's chair, my chair now, and studied my brother, really looked at him, saw the fear, the desperation, the complete loss of control. Saw him the way I'd felt in Bangkok, in Tokyo, in Prague. What do I want? I repeated softly. I want you to understand what it feels like to be abandoned, to be left behind, to be deemed worthless by the people who are supposed to care about you. I never thought you were worthless. You left me in 6 different countries with no money, no plan, and no way home. What would you call that? I was young. I was stupid. I didn't think. That's the problem, Marcus. You didn't think. You've never had to think. You've floated through life on privilege and charm, and every time you fucked up, someone cleaned up your mess. Dad, mother, your friends, even me. How many times did I cover for you when you missed family dinners or forgot mother's birthday? I know I wasn't a good brother. You weren't a brother at all. You were a stranger who occasionally remembered I existed when it was convenient. He was silent, staring at his hands. Do you know why I died in my previous life? I asked. His head snapped up. Your previous what? I died, Marcus, in Bangkok, in a hospital room, alone, from pneumonia I got because you and Mother left me there with no money, no resources, no way to get help. I called you, I called Mother. Neither of you answered. So I died. That's insane. You're here right now, you didn't die. I did, and then I came back. And I decided that this time I'd make sure you understood what it felt like to be powerless. He stared at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was, but I'd earned it. I don't believe in reincarnation or whatever you're talking about, he said finally. But I do believe you hate me. And I get it, I was a shitty brother. I'm sorry, truly. But please don't destroy 300 people's lives because of what I did. Those 300 people can find other jobs. You're the one who'll lose everything. I know, and maybe I deserve that, but they don't. It was a good argument, even a compelling one, but he'd miscalculated one thing. You're right, I said. They don't deserve it. Hope flashed across his face. Which is why I'm buying Nexus. The hope died instantly, replaced by confusion. You're... what? I'm buying the company. I've already spoken to Brandon. He's agreed to sell controlling interest to me for $50 million, more than enough to cover the debt I'm owed and keep the company afloat. The employees keep their jobs. You, however, do not. You can't fire me. I can, and I will. As of the acquisition closing, you're terminated. No severance beyond what's legally required. Your stock options are worthless, of course, since they were priced at the pre-bankruptcy valuation. You'll walk away with nothing. This is insane. This is justice. Those 300 employees get to keep their livelihoods. Brandon gets to stay on as CEO with a proper financial structure. And you get to understand what it's like to lose everything because someone with more power decided you were disposable. I stood, signaling the meeting was over. I'll have my lawyer send the termination paperwork to your personal email. Please clear out your desk by Friday. Marcus sat there, frozen. Then something in him broke. His face crumpled and I realized he was crying. I'm sorry, he sobbed. Lena, I'm so sorry. For all of it, for every time I left you, for every time I didn't see you. For being the shittiest brother in the world. I'm sorry. I felt nothing. That was the strangest part. I'd imagined this moment for so long. His apology, his tears, his complete breakdown. I'd thought it would feel triumphant. Instead, I just felt tired. Your apology doesn't change anything, Marcus. It doesn't undo the past. It doesn't erase what you did. It's just words. What can I do? Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Nothing. There's nothing you can do. That's the point. You're powerless now, just like I was. I walked to the library door and opened it. Goodbye, Marcus. He left, stumbling like a drunk man. I watched through the security cameras as he got in his car and just sat there for 20 minutes, head on the steering wheel. Then he drove away. I poured myself a drink and waited to feel victorious. The Nexus acquisition closed 2 weeks later. I installed a new management team, refinanced the company's remaining debt at reasonable rates, and made it clear that we were pivoting to a more sustainable growth strategy. The stock options I'd promised the employees, I restructured them. Everyone got new grants at the current valuation, vesting over 4 years. It wouldn't make them rich immediately, but it gave them real equity in a company that now had a future. The press coverage was universally positive. Mystery investor saves tech darling, read one headline. Anonymous entrepreneur steps in where VCs failed, read another. No one connected it to me. My name appeared nowhere in the documents. I operated through 3 layers of LLCs, just like always. But Marcus knew. And Mother knew because Marcus told her. She called me the day the acquisition was announced. You fired your own brother. He was an employee of a company I acquired. Standard restructuring. He has nothing now. No job, no savings, no prospects. You've ruined him. He's 30 years old with an Ivy League degree and 10 years of tech experience. He'll be fine. No one will hire him after this. You've blackballed him. I haven't blackballed anyone. But if companies are doing their due diligence and finding concerns about his performance or professionalism, well, that's between him and his future employers. I had, of course, made sure that certain information about Marcus's work history was easily discoverable. The missed deadlines, the project failures he'd blamed on others, the HR complaints about his treatment of junior employees. Nothing defamatory, just facts. But facts, when compiled properly, told a damning story. This is sick, Elena, you're sick. I'm successful, Mother. There's a difference. You're destroying your family for money. I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply making business decisions. If those decisions happen to affect family members who made poor choices, well, that's unfortunate, but unavoidable. He's your brother, and you're my mother, which makes it even more remarkable that you stood by and watched him abandon me over and over again, that you chose him every single time, that you never once considered that maybe, just maybe, I deserved the same love and protection you gave him. Silence. I did my best, she said finally, voice small. Your best wasn't good enough. And now you get to live with that. What about me? She asked. Are you going to destroy me too? It was a fair question. I'd destroyed Marcus's career. I'd taken the family house. I had the resources to make her life very difficult if I wanted to. No, I said, I'm not going to destroy you. You're not? No. Because the worst thing I could do to you, that was exactly what I'm already doing. Nothing. You get to live in your little condo in Queens, watching your golden child fall from grace, knowing that your daughter, the one you ignored, belittled, and abandoned, is the one who could help but chooses not to. You get to live with the knowledge that you failed as a mother. That seems like punishment enough. She was crying now. Elena, please, he's my son. Help him. No. I'm your mother. You were supposed to be. But you chose a side a long time ago, Mother. You chose Marcus. Every time. So now you get to keep him, comfort him, support him, with your own resources. That's what family does, right? I hung up. 3 months later, I was in my Connecticut house working in the library when my security system pinged. Someone at the gate, Marcus. I hadn't seen him since the day I'd fired him. According to my private investigator, yes, I'd hired one because I wanted to know what he'd do next. He'd been crashing with friends, doing gig work, trying to figure out his next move. No one would hire him for a serious position. His reputation was too damaged. I debated not letting him in, but curiosity won. He looked worse than before, thinner, older, beaten down by life in a way I'd only ever seen in mirrors before. I'm not here to ask for anything, he said when I opened the door. I needed to say something. I leaned against the doorframe, not inviting him in. I'm listening. You were right about everything. I was a terrible brother. I took you for granted. I treated you like you were disposable. And when you tried to tell me, I dismissed it. I dismissed you. Is this the part where you ask for forgiveness? No, I don't deserve forgiveness. I needed you to know that I understand now. What I did, what it must have felt like. You understand? I couldn't keep the skepticism from my voice. Really? I've spent the last 3 months with nothing. No job, no money, no options. I've had friends stop returning my calls. I've had doors close in my face. I've felt what it's like to be invisible. And his voice cracked. It's the worst feeling in the world. 3 months, I said softly. You've experienced 3 months of what I lived through for 28 years. He nodded. I know it's not the same. It'll never be the same. But I understand now why you did this, and I just wanted you to know that. We stood there in the doorway, two siblings who barely knew each other, separated by years of damage. What do you want from me, Marcus? Nothing, I swear. I'm not asking for money or help or anything. I guess I wanted you to know that you won, completely, and that I'm sorry it had to be a contest at all. He turned to leave. Marcus, he stopped. There's a company called Dataflow. They're looking for a senior project manager. The pay is decent, nothing spectacular. It's real work, not executive bullshit. If you're actually interested in rebuilding instead of coasting, I can put in a word. He turned back, eyes wide. You'd do that? I'm not promising anything. They might say no. And if you get the job and fuck it up, that's on you. But if you actually want to work, to be better, I won't stand in your way. Why would you help me after everything? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe because I'm tired. Maybe because revenge isn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. Or maybe because I'd rather you learn to stand on your own than watch you drown. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because watching you suffer doesn't actually make me happy. It just makes me sad about what we could have been. He nodded slowly. Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you. You're right, you don't deserve it, but maybe that's the point. Deserving things and getting them don't always line up. Learned that the hard way. He left. I watched his car disappear down the driveway and wondered if I'd just made a mistake. I did put in the word with Dataflow, and they did hire him. And according to my sources, he was actually good at it. Humble, hardworking, willing to learn. I didn't follow his progress closely. I had my own life to build. I expanded my hotel chain, bought properties in Tokyo and Rome. Yes, both cities where he'd abandoned me. I was nothing if not thorough. I dated, had relationships, some good, some bad, learned to trust people again slowly. I donated millions to causes I cared about. Youth homelessness, medical debt relief, programs for disadvantaged students. Money that could have been mine in that hospital in Bangkok. Money that could have changed everything. I made sure other Elenas didn't die alone. And gradually, the anger faded. Not all of it. I don't think it ever will completely. But enough that I could breathe without feeling that constant knot of rage in my chest. Mother never apologized. She stayed in her condo in Queens, occasionally calling to guilt-trip me about family obligations. I kept the conversations short and infrequent. Marcus and I didn't become close, but we weren't enemies anymore either. He sent a Christmas card that first year, a simple one, no message beyond his signature. I sent one back. It became a tradition. Small steps. That's all they were. 2 years after the Nexus acquisition, I was in Paris on business. The Hotel Lumiere was hosting a tech conference, different from the one Marcus had been banned from, but a big deal nonetheless. I was having coffee in the lobby when I saw him. Marcus, standing near the check-in desk, luggage beside him, looking uncertain. He saw me at the same moment. We locked eyes across the lobby. I could have had him thrown out. His name was still on the ban list. One word to Henri and he'd be escorted from the premises. Instead, I walked over. Business trip? I asked. He nodded. Dataflow is sending me. We're pitching a potential client. I didn't realize you'd be here. It's my hotel. I'm often here. Right, of course. He looked uncomfortable. I can go to a different hotel if you want. I didn't know. I wouldn't have. Marcus. He stopped rambling. Check in. Do your pitch. It's fine. Are you sure? I thought about it, really thought about it, about the girl who died in Bangkok, about the woman who'd spent 2 years meticulously destroying her brother's life, about who I wanted to be going forward. I'm sure. Consider the ban lifted. Lena, Don't. Just check in. And Marcus? Yeah? Good luck with your pitch. He smiled, tentative, uncertain, but real. Thanks. I went back to my coffee and watched him check in. Watched him be treated like any other guest. Watched him disappear into the elevator with his luggage. It wasn't forgiveness, not entirely, but it was something. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was growth. Or maybe it was just the understanding that carrying hate forever is exhausting. And at some point, you have to put it down to move forward. 5 years after my rebirth, I stood in the library of my Connecticut house, our house, though it would always feel like Dad's, and looked at the photos I'd hung on the walls. Pictures of my properties around the world, pictures of me at charity galas, pictures of me with friends, with business partners, with people I'd chosen to let into my life. And one picture of Marcus and me taken at a Dataflow company event I'd attended as a guest. We weren't hugging, weren't even standing particularly close. But we were both smiling, and it looked real. It wasn't the family I'd wanted, but it was honest, and after everything, honesty felt like enough. I'd gotten my revenge. I'd made them pay. I'd taken everything they'd valued and shown them exactly what it felt like to be powerless. And then I'd done something I never expected. I'd let go. Not of the memories, not of the lessons learned, but of the need to keep punishing them. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge wasn't their suffering. It was my success. It was building an empire they never thought I could build. It was standing in Dad's library, in my house, in my life, and knowing that I'd done it all myself. It was proving that I was never the worthless one. They were just too blind to see my worth. The story of how I died and was reborn and bought a hotel chain to ban my brother is a good one. People love it at dinner parties. The righteous fury of it, the poetic justice. But the real story, the one I tell myself on quiet nights in Dad's library, is simpler. I was lost. Then I found myself. I was abandoned. Then I built my own home. I was invisible. Then I made myself impossible to ignore. And in the process, I learned that revenge is satisfying but limited. It's a meal that fills you up but leaves you hungry an hour later. Building something real, something lasting, something that helps people, that's what actually matters. The hotels aren't just monuments to my victory over Marcus. They're places where travelers find shelter, where families make memories, where people feel safe. The company I saved isn't just proof I could destroy Marcus's dreams. It's 300 people with jobs and futures and stock options that might actually mean something. The donations I make aren't just ways to spite my mother's selfishness. They're lifelines for people who need them. That's the legacy I'm building. Not one of revenge, but one of purpose. And yeah, sometimes I still enjoy the look on Marcus's face when he walks into one of my hotels. Sometimes I still savor the knowledge that I won completely and utterly. But mostly, I just enjoy the life I built from the ashes of the one I lost. The hotel empire, the real estate portfolio, the respect of my peers, the knowledge that I earned every penny, every property, every victory. No one gave me anything. I took it, built it, made it mine, and that's worth more than all the revenge in the world. Last month, Marcus called me, not for money or help or anything practical. "I'm getting married," he said, "to someone you'd actually like, I think. She's a teacher, keeps me grounded, calls me on my bullshit. Congratulations." I know it's weird to ask, but would you come to the wedding? I thought about saying no, thought about all the reasons I could decline, thought about the girl who died in Bangkok who would never forgive him. But I'm not her anymore. I'm someone new, someone stronger, someone who gets to choose what her life looks like. "I'll come," I said. "Text me the details." "Really? Really? And Marcus?" "Yeah. I'm happy for you, I mean that." And I did, because the greatest revenge isn't making them suffer. It's being happy in spite of what they did. It's building a life so full, so rich, so meaningful that their cruelty becomes nothing more than a footnote in your origin story. The girl who died in Bangkok got her revenge. The woman I became got her life. And in the end, that's all I ever really wanted. A life. My own life. One I chose, I built, I controlled. They don't get to take that from me, not ever again.